888-817-8995. Are you still friends with Facebook? Our guest is Tim Richardson. He is a professor at Seneca College and the University of Toronto. He set up the e-commerce courses at both those institutions. He teaches about social media, things like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, my students glorify the fact I'm probably the only person that can be in class and they're on Facebook and they don't get in trouble in class.
Really? Because we'll have lots of time to talk about this because there's probably different attitudes even among your colleagues as professors.
Indeed.
So are you still friends with Facebook?
Yes, but I use it for a strategic purpose. I have a Facebook group created for former students. I had a very boring webpage that just simply listed them by name so that they could shout out to what success they had achieved. But once Facebook came available, and it could be much more dynamic, and I found that 28-year-olds and 29-year-olds are posting jobs to the 25-year-olds, and 23-year-olds are getting interview tips from the 27-year-olds, and so on. So it's taken on a life of its own. But I don't post, pictures of went to the grocery store, petted a nice dog, those kinds of more mundane things.
Okay, so you use it in your professor role, it sounds like, more than in a personal role. Have your own habits changed? Like, when did you first sign on?
About a year ago or so, but not before that. I mean, that was something that I'm not going to embarrass my children by saying their names or ages, but they only after 2 or 3 years decided that Dad could be a friend on Facebook.
Oh, no kidding. That's I know this is
a very sterile account, too. It wasn't their real account. Younger people have often 2 and 3 Facebook accounts.
Yes, well, I'm hearing that the thing to do among a lot of teenagers and 20-somethings is to use first and middle names so that, they're cottoning on to the idea that employers go on and look. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
Screen captures live forever.
Yeah, and they do. Well, I wonder if you can, because I want everyone listening to me to understand even just this new feature, timeline. Can you just describe it a little bit, how it works?
Well, I'll give you 2 angles on it. One for the user and one for how the company makes money. For the user, the idea is that it allows people to see everything that they've done in the past in sort of a timeline sequence, just as it says. But also visually, the way the page is actually structured allows for a bigger spread of pictures up front. If you think, or anybody out there who's listening knows the 4 or 5 little tiny pictures at the top of a typical Facebook page, don't really allow someone to very quickly see, oh, that's a hot person, I want to get back in touch with them, or that's a nice looking guy, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're allowed to have a larger size picture up there, you and your peaceful dog, or this is our store, they can make a judgment a lot more easily. Pictures sell easier than words, but bigger pictures sell better, right?
Okay.
So simply by having a bigger picture allows a more easier decision to be made about the person, and it also invites people to take more pictures, but that's also in concert with the developments in the technological environment. It's just in the past 24, 30 months that we have cell phone cameras that have high degree of pixelization in the cameras. It used to be just 1 or 2 megapixels. Now we got 4, 6, 8 megapixels in our cell phone cameras. So there's just more content.
Yeah, and the thing is, the timeline allows you to organize things. So it's stuff that's already up there, but some people may have forgotten. It's going to make like the past more visible. So
at the same time, once it goes, I mean, you have to be very conscientious about thinking, well, what did I post before? And Facebookers have been up 2.5, 3.5 years. They're going to start to think, well, I'm 22. I looked pretty silly when I was 18.5, jumping off that rock, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe I don't want to post that. But for people like me, there's not much difference between what I look like 52 and 49, so I don't really care about those kind of trivialities or what I was doing. I'm still have the same job, right?
And you don't use it in a personal way, too, you said. So
no,
there might be that difference. So again, I'd like to hear from people how they're negotiating that. It's going to be a default setting. I noticed that a lot of people are trying to decline getting it, but it's you're getting warned, but once you get
well, the warning is so that you can go back and change your privacy settings, because Facebook has got in a lot of trouble for how they made the defaults for those. So you're given several days notice to be able to go back and determine what things you want friends to be able to see and friends of friends, because there's a big difference between friends of friends and friends, because you know who your friends are, but you don't know who the friends of friends are. So being able to distinguish certain text and certain images that can be seen by friends of friends might be something people want to be a little bit more diligent with.
Yeah, and I want to just mention, you're mentioning that privacy. Obviously, there's an element of this to consider whether you're on it or not. And you made a reference there. This is Facebook actually reaching a settlement just in the last few months, actually, no, with the Federal Trade Commission. This is the agency in the U.S. Accused the social network of revealing people's private information without their consent. This idea of making things public that users wanted to remain private. So as part of that settlement now, Facebook has agreed to get approval from users before making changes. So his timeline kind of fits into that, I guess, but the fact is timeline will exist, so whether you want it or not.
Exactly, that's the thing. So that's the problem with these sort of default things. But our privacy laws in the U.S. are much different than they are in Canada, In the United States, organizations that gather personal profile information about you is owned by the organization, and they can do with it what they want, whether you consent or not. But in Canada, personal profile information gathered about you can be challenged by the individual and cannot be revealed to other people without your explicit consent. This is what several laws have been passed recently, the PD Act and so on, to deal with these types of things to protect Canadians.
Our guest is Tim Richardson. He's a professor at Seneca College and the University of Toronto. We're asking you quite simply, are you still friends with Facebook? And we'd love to hear from all of you. Take it in different directions. You used it, let it go, opting for something else in terms of social media, maybe not enjoying it as much as you used to. There was a breaking point, something that happened that made you think, no more for me. 1-888-817-8995. That is the toll-free number. And again, just how you're negotiating this even new feed, some of the new feed, there are others, but timeline is one that we've talked about. How you're negotiating that. Again,